YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Really excited about today's video. Gonna have a little fun here. Playoff tier maker is what we're doing today. I created a bunch of tiers. We're going to place those playoff teams in those tiers. We'll talk about more than just playoff teams as well, actually. So really excited about this. We have full playoff coverage here, but not only just that, we have off-season coverage as well already. Recent Hopkins trade video, Derek Carr trade video, recent mock draft, free agency video. Check it all out. We have our weekly playoff picks already going on as well. Like, subscribe to notifications on me. Much, much appreciated. Very important to follow us on Twitter live, news, rumors, updates, keeping you guys up to date, always talking with you guys. Link pinned in the comments that'll bring you directly to that Twitter. There's also links down there for our sponsors, GLD Shop, Liquid IV, Walk the Mock, Code GOAT. Rocking the Eagles chain from the GLD Shop. They have some sick stuff, including NFL pendants. Links pinned in the comments. Check it out. So here's the tier maker that I created. Some teams are already through in the rest category. We're mainly talking about playoff teams, and we'll talk about some other teams as well. So at the top, you see a bunch of question marks, the mystery tier. We will get to that. We will change that. We will get to that. Then we got can go to the Super Bowl, can win 2 games maximum. So not will win 2 games, can win 2 games maximum. And then can make a sneaky run. I actually added that tier last second there. I think we're going to have one team going there. And can win 1 playoff game is one. Won't win a playoff game, in my opinion, is another one. Better than some playoff teams. That's an interesting one where we use some non-playoff teams. So excited to break it down. We'll go in order here for what's left for us. I threw the rest teams in categories. I know there's some teams that almost made the playoffs in there. They just didn't really feel like playoff teams to me at the end of the day, so I threw them in the rest category. The Ravens are first. Tricky situation with the Ravens, because Lamar Jackson's not going to play in the first game. If Lamar Jackson is playing, if they get by the first round is playing, they could be a sneaky team. They could win 1 playoff game if they had Lamar Jackson, but that's just not the case. I don't think they'll win a playoff game. Even if they had Lamar, though, I wouldn't pick them to beat the Bengals. They definitely could, but I wouldn't pick it. But there would be an opportunity to win 1 playoff game. So maybe I'd put them in that category, maybe the sneaky run category. But at the same time, Lamar's been out for so long, and he wasn't playing as well as he normally does. A little hesitant to run, maybe because he hasn't been 100% all year. They just don't have the weapons in the passing game for him. Defense has been playing pretty good, though. But how do they match up against the explosive playoff offensive teams? But yeah, it's tough. Lamar's not going to play this week. I'm going to put them in the won't win a playoff game category. We're going to throw the Bills up in the can go to the Super Bowl category. And again, at the end, we'll reveal what the mystery tier is at the top. So we'll actually adjust some things once we get to that. The Bengals, you do worry about the offensive line. They made it to the Super Bowl with that offensive line last year. It's actually a little bit better this year. It's tough that La'el Collins is hurt, but that's kind of what stopped them short. It was a problem against a team like the Titans. It was a problem in the Super Bowl, but they made it there. So could at any given time throughout these playoffs, could that just end their run early? And it's very possible, but the team is so damn talented. Joe Burrow, one of the best in football, playing like maybe the best in football right now. The weapons that they have and how good they are at a balanced defense and how good they are at game planning, throwing teams off, being unpredictable on the defensive side of things, which people don't really talk about enough. So I'm going to go the Bengals can go to the Super Bowl there. Cowboys are tricky. They always let us down in the playoffs. And they've been kind of letting us down. Maybe not everybody, because maybe people don't like the Cowboys out there. I kind of just say that like I'm a fan of every team here. But they've kind of been letting us down a little bit recently, too, not playing the best ball. Dak's been a little sloppy with the football as well. Could they, be saving something for the playoffs and they learn their lesson off the pass? It's a possibility. They're still such a talented team because the pass rush they have, the ability to win with the passing game, the running game, the offensive line solid. How will coaching be in the playoffs? I'm going to say could win 2 max. Which, they can making a sneaky run would mean, somewhere around the same thing, not going to the Super Bowl, making a little bit of a run. I don't know if it'd be that sneaky. I think it's a team that can win too. They can go to the NFC Championship game for sure. Beating the Bucs might be a challenge in the first round. They should beat them, but could go either way. And they could win in the next round. That's why we're going to say max. I think if they would play the Eagles, I think the Eagles would be the favorite, rightfully so. Cowboys could win that game, though. If they get over that, they go to the NFC Championship game. That might be their limit. They're going to have some sort of chance to win that. I'm just not seeing them go to the Super Bowl. I think they're a little too inconsistent, a little too sloppy. They're a little beat up too, at the moment, which a lot of teams are. So I'm going to win 2 max. I mean, they can, if you view that as being sneaky, them going to the NFC Championship, you could put them in that category as well. The Lions are next. They are not a playoff team, but I'm gonna easily put them in the better than some playoff teams category here because this team feels good right now. The way they ended things, upsetting the Packers, keeping them out of the playoffs, put up a good fight with a lot of good teams down the stretch, got really hot, got a little better on defense, which was a problem early on. The only tough loss was that Panthers game. But they're better than other playoff teams. I think they're better than the Ravens right now. If they're fully healthy, then maybe not. I think they're better than, the Dolphins. If they're fully healthy, then that's debatable as well, I suppose. I think they're definitely better than the Seahawks. I think they're better than the Buccaneers. They can put up fights or compete, maybe win against teams like the Vikings, a division rival, obviously. So easily putting the Lions in the better than some playoff teams category here. No question about it. No question. The Packers, a little more difficult because, there's times this year where they look like just downright a bad football team. They ended things very sloppy when, everyone thought they would win against the Lions. They kind of went on a run a little bit. I think things were really going their way while they were going on a run. But so this is not as easy as the Lions. They're kind of borderline being in the rest category, but I'm going to put them in the better than some playoff teams category because I do think, if Lamar's out, I think they're better than the Ravens. Same thing with Tua's out, and they're better than the Dolphins. They beat the head-to-head. Regular season doesn't really matter, but it kind of helps the argument. I think they're better. I think the Lions are better than the Giants as well. The Packers, that's questionable. Would they be better than the Giants in a playoff setting? That's debatable. The Seahawks, I think they are. Buccaneers, perhaps as well. So we'll put the Packers in that category. The Titans are interesting because if the Titans were fully healthy, I think they would be in the playoffs. I think they'd be in the playoffs and they possibly could win a playoff game. Because I think they're that talented and they were just short while being the most beat up team in the playoffs. But I'm still going to put them in the rest category because that's kind of what their identity right now, what they are. If they would have made the playoffs, they would have been without Tannehill still, unless they made a crazy run. So the Titans are interesting. If they're healthy, I definitely think they're a playoff team, and they're better than some playoff teams there. But that's really not who they are right now, so I put them in the rest category. But I had to really think about that one. To another playoff team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think can win one playoff game. They're pretty talented. Obviously, young, good coaching staff there. So I was thinking about the sneaky run here. Just those teams who they may have to face in the second round, with their inexperience, I don't think they're going to get. I really don't think. I have actually them beating the Chargers in the first round, which could go is a 50-50 game to me. But I don't think they're going to win more than that. But I love what they're doing. I love they can win in multiple ways. Taking the ball away on defense, stopping the run. Passing game, running game. I love that. And that's usually kind of keys to success in the playoffs. But just a little bit inexperience. I did pick them to win that Chargers game, though. So I do think they can. I'm counting on them winning one playoff game. It's just the inexperience could show up. That kind of could be their limit there. The Chiefs, pretty easy. We're going to put them in can go to the Super Bowl. The Chargers, very interesting team here because I actually picked the Jags to beat the Chargers. I picked the Jags to beat the Chargers. Am I super confident with that one? No, I don't know if anybody's confident with their pick in that game, no matter who they're picking. I think it's a 50-50 game, matchup-wise, how they match up, where their strengths and weaknesses are, and it being in Jacksonville. That is why I went with the Jags. But I had to create a tier special for the Chargers, can make a sneaky run. I'm going to put them there because, again, I picked the Jags. And I'm somewhat confident with that. I think they'll be strong on the ground running game because the Chargers are a little weak stopping the run. But if they beat the Jags, which is realistic, I call it a 50-50 game, I think they can make a sneaky run. I think they can, and that being, win another one. Maybe they could get to that AFC Championship game. But why it's sneaky is because in the next round, you wouldn't expect them to have a shot. They would play a team, they would probably play the Chiefs, and I think they actually have somewhat of a shot there. I think very highly of the Chiefs, but looking at matchup, the Chargers always put up a good fight with the Chiefs. That would be a high-scoring game that could somewhat go either way. I'd pick the Chiefs, so don't get me wrong here. I'd pick the Chiefs, but I think that would be a close game. And where the Chargers' problem is stopping the run. That's why it's hard to see them making a big run, because usually those teams get exposed in the playoffs. But and that's where the problem is with the Jags. But if they got by the Jags, which they could, because they have a little more experience, maybe a little more veterans and a better pass rush, then they play the Chiefs team, which is a pass-first team. They're sneaky good running the ball, especially with a guy like McKinnon, Pacheco, but they're not going to just pound the football and beat you that way. So that kind of is good for the Chargers, and that will make things interesting, where the Chargers have a shot in that game. So they could be a sneaky run team. Again, I don't have them winning a playoff game, but it's possible. It's possible. So I kind of made an own category for the Chargers. The Vikings are, maybe in that category, because I think most people expect them to win the first round. Some people don't think so, and it's understandable. And then people think they're kind of done after that, but maybe that offense could get them by that point. So I could put them in either of these categories, because the Cowboys, I think people could see, they wouldn't be a sneaky team. Would you consider the Vikings a sneaky team if they made those wins? So I could put them in either categories. I'm going to throw them with the Cowboys, though, because we expect them to beat the Giants. They could definitely lose that game. Then they would most likely play the Niners, and I would pick the Niners. The Niners would be favored there, but I mean, you're going against Brock Purdy, the inexperience at the quarterback position. Could he struggle just because the moment, the playoffs, and you could see the Vikings kind of winning that game. I wouldn't count on it, but because of that, and that's why then they kind of have that maximum of 2. If they got to the NFC Championship game, I don't think there'd be any way they win that game. I'd give the Cowboys more of a shot, but kind of in the same category there. But again, I could kind of put the Cowboys, Vikings, and Chargers all in the same category. I'd be a little more confident, or I would have higher chances for the Cowboys and the Vikings to win 2 playoff games, and the Chargers. I picked both those teams to win. I did not pick the Chargers. So that's kind of why maybe they can win 2 max ahead of the Chargers tier there. So that's where I got those teams. The Dolphins, no Tua Tagovailoa in the first round. In the wild card round, I don't expect them to win a playoff game. So I'm going to put them in that category. If Tua was playing, that'd be interesting, because the Dolphins played the Bills pretty damn well with Tua this year. You're looking at both the outings, even though it was 1-1. So maybe you would be able to sneak them into this tier. Playoffs are different, though. I think the Bills would definitely handle them. But that's interesting. Steelers, so another non-playoff team. I'm actually going to throw the Steelers right in here. The Lions are like the top of this group, like no question about the Lions in that group. Packers and Steelers got to think about it a little bit, but the Steelers have been playing a lot better ball lately. Especially when they got TJ Watt back, that defense would be one of the better ones in the playoffs. They would make it a defensive ball game, and they're getting better on offense. They're not scoring a bunch of points till late, but they're getting better. Kenny Pickett was getting better. The offensive line was getting better. Najee Harris is getting better. Deontay Johnson and George Pickens were really showing out. So, and then the coaching that they have too. So I think the Steelers are better than some playoff teams. I definitely think so. I think they would beat some of those teams that we kind of mentioned with the Lions and the Packers. I think they would beat those teams, mainly because of their defense and their tough game plan, tough football. So I'd put the Steelers in better than some playoff teams. The Giants, I'm going to throw in. Can win 1 playoff game. They play the Vikings in the first round. I think a lot of people kind of base things off the last time they played, which I don't like doing, regular season games to playoff games, but it kind of matches up, like with the argument, but I just don't like, well, they could win that game because what happened in the first game. I don't really like saying that. I just look at the matchup. I think they can win that game because they're very well coached. They play tough on both sides of the ball. The Vikings aren't particularly strong on defense. The Giants blitz versus the Vikings beat up offensive line and be struggling interior could help them win the game. So therefore, I definitely can see the Giants winning a playoff game. They definitely could beat the Vikings. That's kind of close to a 50-50 game. I just don't think they're going to win after that. I really don't. I would be very, very confident saying that they will not win after that first game. So, but an incredibly impressive year for the New York Football Giants there. Eagles, haven't been playing as good recently, but then remember Jalen Hurts was out up until that last week. Will there be some sort of rust? I mean, he played in that last game. Is it a difference between the play? Because he got them to the playoffs last year, was not good in that playoff game last year. Then people were calling for Minshew in that game. So is it going to be something like that? Just like playoffs, just still not ready for the playoffs? I'm not expecting that. But I think some people maybe could see that, which could drop the Eagles to one of these categories. But it's a really good football team, well-built football team, well-coached football team right now. Hurts is playing a ton better. Light years better than it was last year. They can win with that running game, kind of a unique running game. It's very challenging to deal with Jalen Hurts and his legs, but they can beat you with that passing game, so you got to worry about so much. They have the best offensive line in football, which is massive when it comes to the playoff football. And defensively, they're not as good as they were earlier in the year, but it's a pretty balanced defense with some playmakers, and they can help win games as well. It doesn't need to be all be on the offense. Sometimes it might be, maybe against the big-time offensive teams in the playoffs, but I'm definitely going to put the Eagles up there with the can go to the Super Bowl. Seahawks won't win a playoff game. It'd be the biggest upset. The Ravens are playing with Tyler Huntley at quarterback, most likely, and the Dolphins are playing with Skylar Thompson at quarterback, but I actually think it's questionable now, but I still think because of matchup. The playoffs all about matchup, going against, using your strengths against other teams' weaknesses. I just really don't see the Seahawks winning. It's a terrible matchup against the 49ers. I'd be shocked if they won the game. They just don't have the defense, and the offense a little inconsistent, even though it could be explosive. The 49ers I'm going to put and can go to the Super Bowl. Maybe debatable. Maybe you just don't, because, again, playoffs, quarterback is even more important, way more important than even the regular season. It's an important then, obviously. So maybe an inexperienced, last pick of the draft, Brock Purdy, maybe he folds under the pressure. Maybe he's just not ready for it, and maybe just could cost them. And that could be the difference. Maybe they can lose early and we're all going to be going, oh, it's because the quarterback situation. We've seen him in big games at Iowa State, just very underwhelming, even though he was a good quarterback, had a good career. So maybe, but I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that defense is by far the best in the playoffs. So that alone could get you to the Super Bowl because it is an offensive era. But when you're that separated in a good way from the other teams, it just helps that much. This is a team that maybe the one team that could win by their defense. If their offense has a shitty day, they can still win because of their defense. Not many teams you could say that. Other teams maybe. But their offense is rolling right now too. So well coached, which is helping Purdy. But they can beat you just by wearing you out, controlling the clock, pounding the football, explosive plays, pounding the football, in the passing game as well. And it feels like they're healthier, getting healthier compared to past years as well. So definitely the Niners in that category. And the Bucs, I'm going to put there in the can win one playoff game. They've been kind of bad this year, to be honest, but they're getting better. They're experienced here. I think they could have some good game plans, and then they can beat the Cowboys. That's actually close to a 50-50 game, in my opinion. I just don't think they would get by to whoever they would play next, whether it be the Eagles or the 49ers. But I just don't think there's any way. Maybe more of a shot against the Eagles than the 49ers, perhaps. But I'm going to say, if I had to order them, I'd put it like that probably. I think the Giants are a better football team, like head-to-head, but I think maybe if they won a game, then you're starting to feel like Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady time. So maybe. So I kind of put it in that order. Again, they can win 2 max, and they can make a sneaky run. Almost seems like the same thing. The Chargers, I don't really expect them to win 1, but they can, and then they can beat the Chiefs just because of matchup and how those games are so close. It's a high-scoring game. And I'd separate the Lions from the Packers and Steelers, but they're all kind of in that category. I think they're better than some playoff teams. So what's the mystery? What's the mystery one? We're going to change the title of that, and you probably could have guessed it. Can win the Super Bowl. So we had can go to the Super Bowl. So out of those teams, who could actually win the Super Bowl? This is interesting. I don't do this specific video every year, but I kind of talk about these things, and it's actually usually a pretty big difference. So I have 5 teams and can go to the Super Bowl. I usually only have like 3 maybe, and I kind of cut it whatever I have in half almost. But I think it's a little different this year. And we'll start with the Chiefs. I'm going to put, if you saw my full playoff predictions, I had the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. I will put the Chiefs up there. Best player in football in Patrick Mahomes. Explosive offense, tough to deal with. The running backs are playing pretty well. The offensive line's playing well. Defensively, they're playing pretty well right now. They're getting better. Young secondary is getting better. The pass rush feels like it's better than past years as well. And big thing is they're stopping the run better than they have in the past. Maybe they're missing Tyrann Mathieu, which is huge, the experience here, but everyone's playing better, and they have some spots that's important that are just better in the past. So I'm definitely going to put having Chris Jones is huge, but having the best player in football, Patrick Mahomes, you put them up there for sure. I'm going to put the Bills up there as well. You're getting Micah Hyde back, possibly if they win in the first round, which you expect them to, or maybe it would take another week after that, is absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. If they had Von Miller too, that might be my pick to win the Super Bowl, because what's kind of kept them short is that pass rush. Having that guy with that experience winning Super Bowls would be huge. So not having Von Miller's tough, but I mean having Josh Allen and the challenges you have to do with the game planning for him. You have to deal with, I should say, with the passing game underneath, downfield, his running game. But they're getting the run game going a little bit as well. Offensive line is something you kind of question a little bit. But just the talent all the way through. Defense should be getting better if Hyde comes back. Well-coached defense. Disguise some coverages, run a lot of zone that can throw off quarterbacks in the playoffs. So I throw the Bills up there as well. And then you got Bengals, Eagles, and Niners remaining. I'm gonna put the Eagles in the can win the Super Bowl category. I feel the NFC is interesting. I feel pretty confident. I think a lot of people do that the NFC Championship game is going to be the Eagles and the Niners. The Cowboys and Vikings could sneak in there. I don't see anybody else. One of them could sneak in there, but I'm pretty damn confident it's going to be the Eagles and the 49ers. So that leaves you with just winning one game. We know they can get to the Super Bowl, those types of teams. So just winning that Super Bowl, I think the Eagles can do that. I like their balance. I like that it's difficult challenge. It's challenging to game plan for that Hurts type running game, but they kind of can win with multiple different ways as well. It's a little tricky though, because we could be saying playoffs is just a different game. It's one of those teams I could see us saying that if they get upset early. They got to bye. That's a big part of this as well. But, could it just be too much for them? I'd say they can win the Super Bowl, especially because, again, kind of going back to I'm pretty confident it's going to be the Eagles and Niners. So the winner of that game, which I think it's kind of a 50-50 game, goes to the Super Bowl. Can they beat those AFC teams? I like the way the Eagles match up with those teams. I think Hurts on the ground would be a problem for those teams. So, yes, I think they can win the Super Bowl. Going to the Niners. Again, very confident they can. They will go to the NFC Championship game with the Eagles. And in my recent playoff predictions, I said that was a 50-50 game. I actually had the Niners winning that game, but I had them losing in the playoffs. This is a tricky one because can Purdy actually, not only get the Super Bowl, I think so, because how good that team is, but can he do one extra where quarterback is most important, experience is important, and win the Super Bowl? It's extremely tough to see a guy like Purdy doing that, but this team is so good, and they're playing better offensively right now. It's tough putting Purdy up here, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because I definitely think they can get by the Eagles, and they go to the Super Bowl. Can they? I don't like the way they match up against the Chiefs. Against the Bills, I think their pass rush maybe causes problems where they create turnovers where they could win that game. So I look at the AFC matchups. I think it's a possibility they can win it. It's a team I have going to the Super Bowl, but it's also tough to see Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, where quarterback is most important. And we know how important it is, winning all those games, beating the Seahawks, which they definitely should do. We would think the Vikings, which they should do, but then beating the Eagles, and then beating whatever AFC team that is. It's a lot. It's a lot for a guy like that. So it's a little tricky. And the Bengals, who struggled earlier this year, but definitely on a run. We know they have the firepower and offense, the weapons, defense. They're pretty balanced. They're very good at game planning on defense. They have that big-time quarterback play. So everything kind of checks the box here. But I don't think the defense is as good as last year. It's not far off. One, and then the offensive line is still a problem. So if they run into that pass rush, it's over. It might be over. But the offensive line definitely playing better recently. And I think Joe Burrow, these young guys, Chase, Higgins, they're getting better and better, I think, every single week. So that makes them better than they were last year, in my opinion. And even though they don't present it a lot, I love how balanced they are. Like, they can beat you at all-out pass attack, but they can beat you at the run, too. Mixon and Pirine is a legit duo, and they're on fire right now. So kind of rare for me. I'm going to put all five of those teams in the can win the Super Bowl. I definitely think the Bengals can do it. I made my full playoff predictions already earlier this week, and sometimes this happens to me. I'm not going to change any of the predictions because I'm stubborn as hell, but as this week's kind of gone on, I'm thinking about the playoffs more and more because we just had we not even a full week of thinking about it. I'm starting to feel the Bengals. Something inside of me is like, I'm feeling the Bengals. Like, this team is legit, can make a legit run. They can win the Super Bowl. They definitely can win the Super Bowl. The problem is, I would love a Bengals-Eagles Super Bowl. Like, that's a 50-50 game for sure. Like, who the hell is going to win that game? I think I know who I'd pick. But if the Bengals played the Niners, I think the Bengals are done. I think, that's just a bad matchup. Like, that's the last team they want to play. Like, with that pass rush, that defense, it's going to be similar to last year. I think they would be less off. They'll have less production on offense than they did against the Rams. So the Bengals could definitely go to the Super Bowl because how talented, like everything I explained, and they can win because everything they present. And again, we're pretty confident, at least I am, it's either going to be the Eagles or the Niners. So it's a 50-50 shot, of playing the team they want, playing the team they don't want. Like, I'm not giving them a huge chance to beat the Niners, honestly, at all. So that's the interesting part. So there's an opportunity, there's a chance where if they get a Super Bowl and they're playing the Niners, it's like, man, I don't know if they can win it. I'm kind of getting there. So it's all about matchup. It's all about matchup. But I think a team like the Eagles, like I said, I think the Niners are better off against the Bengals and the Eagles are better off against the Bengals. But I think the Eagles are better off against a team like the Chiefs than the Niners are, my opinion. Bills, I think it's pretty even all the way around with those teams. And, this could blow up in my face because a team like the Cowboys or Vikings could get in there. I don't think so, but could get in there and face one of those AFC teams. Or maybe the Chargers continue that sneaky run because, like I said, if they get by the Jags, the Chiefs game is very winnable, even though I'm going to pick the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are better. It's very winnable. And then, boom, you're at the AFC Championship game, which I don't think they get by that point. But there's a lot of AFC teams that really don't focus on pounding the football, which you have to do against the Chargers, which is kind of their big weakness and why they could just be, not ready for this situation, and that's kind of what held them out of the playoffs last year as well. Now they're in. What could they do? So this was a lot of fun. It's a little different than picking games in the first round. Who has the best chance to win the first round? Just how do they look, outlook of the playoffs. So, I had some fun with this one. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. We're always talking with you on Twitter. We have full NFL coverage here. We're covering the playoffs, all kinds of different videos, and we have a bunch of off-season content already out and more to come. So check it all out. Be much appreciated. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.